My name is Greg Peterson. I am the president of the Robert H. Jackson Center, and I'm thrilled with the crowd here tonight to enjoy a special evening with a very special individual. To our distinguished judges, members of the Inns of Court, and especially the veterans of the world wars and the veterans of the Gulf War. And I know we have a few here, and could you stand up where folks are from the Gulf War? Did they come? I know there are a few that were coming here. There is. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Tonight we are privileged to have as our guest, and I'll introduce him in a little greater detail in a moment, an individual who supervised the investigation of a case before the Iraqi High Tribunal and delivered the indictment directly to Saddam Hussein and 7 others for crimes against humanity and other related crimes. He bravely, and he was the first judge to do so, to expose his identity as well as exposing his own safety by revealing himself to the camera, to the whole world, and especially the Iraqi community, while reading the indictment. This guy is a special, special person. And our special event tonight would not have occurred without the list of the several sponsors who really made this possible, and I would like to just note them because I want to personally thank them, because we've had some very, very special events at the Robert H. Jackson Center, and this is another one of those, and it's because of folks like the ones I'm going to be introducing and mentioning that make it all happen. Robert H. Jackson Inns of Court of Jamestown, and George Panabianco, who put on a wonderful thing tonight. The Robert H. Jackson Inns of Court, from Warren, Forest, Elk, Cameron, McKean County, all these great Pennsylvania folks who the judge and I, we've talked about the fact that he's got to travel from Jamestown, New York, back to Ohio tomorrow, and you got to go through Pennsylvania, and it's good to know the judges. So tonight's a good night. This has been a good night for a lot of folks. Sorry. Safety Compliance, Rick Shields, Seneca Eye Surgeon, the Temple Hesed Abraham, the University of Buffalo School of Law, the William E. and Nancy R. Jackson Fund, which is hosted at the Chautauqua Region Community Foundation, Young Title Agency and Chuck Hinman. Thank you very much, Chuck. Bush Industries, Carlson's Jewelry, the Chautauqua Region Community Foundation, and Randy Sweeney's right there. And there are several funds. And in fact, I was told today, and I'm very proud of this fact, that at the Chautauqua Region Community Foundation, which hosts a number of funds, and currently they host more funds for the benefit of the Robert H. Jackson Center than any other not-for-profit in his region. So I thank all of you for thinking of us. I think this was probably a little bit of a pitch, but good job. To Cummins Engine, to Cecil Rhodes, and the community involvement team, thank you all for being major presenters tonight. Erickson, Webb, Skolton, Haidu, and Bruce Skolton, who's here, thank you very much. The Eugene Gerhardt Robert Jackson Fund, Evans, Elfie's Restaurant, thank you very much. Girton Flowers, Hanson Sign Company, the Jamestown Public Schools, who will be having an event tomorrow. And for those who want to see a little bit of a different opportunity, because the judge tonight's going to be interviewed by me, but tomorrow he's going to make a presentation, and that's going to be at 10 o'clock tomorrow, together with some teachers and students from the Jamestown Public School teacher system. The Legend Group and Lou Deppes, thank you very much. The Maidham Company, Moore and Myatt, Rob Coker. Rob, thank you very much. The Robert Maidham Senior and Valley of the Jamestown Fund, thank you very much. And the Robert H. Jackson Center Endowment Fund. So you can see an awful lot of folks are very interested in you, Judge, and I really look forward to this with a great deal of, and it's exciting, and it really is exciting for me. But I thought to put us into a little bit of a frame of mind, just a brief biographical overview. Judge Raid Juhi was a graduate of the University of Baghdad College of Law. He also went to the Iraq's Judicial Institute. From 2004 to 2006, he was the chief investigative judge of the Iraqi High Tribunal, which was responsible for supervising all cases in preparation for the trial of Saddam Hussein and 7 others, which included Chemical Ali, for just one who was recently convicted and I believe hanged, wasn't he, Judge? For crimes against humanity, for genocide, etc. As the chief investigative judge, he was also involved in, well, maybe we'll get this into that. We'll get into this during the interview. I shouldn't explain all this. But he was also the court spokesman and dealt with the media and appeared before a lot of the Western and Arabic media to explain the process that was going on. Afterwards, he left Iraq and became the senior fellow at the U.S. Institute of Peace in 2008, and then became the first Clark Middle East Fellow at Cornell University. Now, one of my first questions was going to be, who is he rooting for tonight? But I'll answer the question for him, and it's certainly Cornell. The Big Red. Anybody else from Cornell here? All right, the Big Red. Most recently, he's a visiting jurist in residence and an LLM candidate at Case Western Law in Cleveland, Ohio. Judge Rad has a wife and 3 children who are currently living in Ithaca, and we'll talk a little bit more about that soon. How does all this happen? How do we get lucky enough to have the chief investigative judge of the Saddam Hussein trial here? How does this work? It's taken 3 years. 3 years. Here's the steps. I was invited, and the Robert H. Jackson Center was asked to co-sponsor an event at Case Western with one Michael Scharf, and you'll see Michael Scharf in just a few minutes. And I think we have some Case graduates here. Michael Scharf was the head of the Cox Center and really a superstar in the international criminal law field. So we've connected over time, the Robert Jackson Center and Michael Scharf's been up here, and you can take back to the fact that one of Michael Scharf, he's a big star in this international criminal law world, but he's most proud of the fact he knows everything there is to know about Star Trek. Now, I'm not sure what the connect is, but he does. Anyways, Michael asked us to participate in this symposium on the 60th anniversary of the Nuremberg trial, and Judge Rad was there as a presenter, and I said, oh my gosh. So I filmed him. He didn't know this, and he's never, I don't think we've gotten his consent yet, but we have used it. I want you to know this. And I thought, how cool, where is he? How can we get him here? Well, he was in Cornell. That's just a shout away. But for 2 years, it hasn't worked. I haven't been able to get him here. So as would have it, serendipity, one of the individuals from the Nuremberg trial who has been part of our world up here many times, and one of our real heroes is Henry King. Henry King, Nuremberg prosecutor, he was at Warren, and in fact he was the first Jackson lecturer down there. Passed away this past year, and I was one of the eulogists at Case for this presentation, and I'm looking out in the crowd, and I said, no, it can't be. It's the judge. He's there in the crowd. So long story short, as shy as I am, for most of you who know this, boom, right, glad to see you. What are you doing here? He told me he was getting his LLM at Case. Bingo, let's find a date. Here he is tonight. So we're just absolutely thrilled beyond belief to have Judge Rad in our midst. Also, there may be one or two of these. So this is a book and a plug from Michael Scharf. It's called Enemy of the State. Michael Scharf was one of the individuals who, in fact, did some of the training. We'll talk more about that in a second. But he's got a book here called Enemy of the State. And if you're interested, it's at the bookstore, which will be open afterwards. One other thing, after this is over, there will be some docents around. So if anybody who's been up here, this is the first time traveling to the Jackson Center and want to know a little bit more, that will be available. I'm going to pause, stop, and we're going to watch now a short vignette, which will hopefully get everybody's head around what happened prior to the Saddam Hussein trial and introduce our subject for tonight.
Good evening and welcome to this Fox News special, Saddam Hussein on trial. I'm Dan Senor. As a senior advisor to the Coalition Provisional Authority, I was in Iraq when Saddam Hussein was captured. And I was there when the U.S. and the new Iraqi government laid out the plan to bring this tyrant to justice. Saddam Hussein, as you will see, will actually be tried in a series of cases. The first is scheduled to start in October. I recently went back to Iraq, only this time with a Fox News investigative team. We had unprecedented, exclusive access to many people and places that will be at the center of this historic event. What we encountered is a country still in the shadow of Saddam. We traveled under heavy security, but the threat we faced was small compared to the dangers faced by Iraqis working to bring Saddam to justice. They spoke to us at great risk. Some have already seen family and friends murdered by terrorists, hoping to stop Saddam from being tried for his crimes.
First, you'll meet the Iraqis who are risking their lives and that of their families to bring Saddam to trial.
Why do you keep putting yourself in these difficult situations?
Their courageous fight to condemn one of the world's worst tyrants coming up next.
Even after Saddam Hussein was pulled from his spider hole and thrown in prison, investigating his crimes is a dangerous calling. Terrorists are stopping at nothing to derail the trial, including murder.
Jafar Abdul-Jabbar is the lead prosecutor at the Iraqi Special Tribunal. He is appearing on camera, shedding his anonymity and the measure of personal security that goes with it for the first time.
My brother, who was also my personal driver, was killed 6 months ago.
Terrorists reach your family, and yet you're still coming on camera.
After I was told about this, I went home, had a talk with myself, and reached a conclusion. I have to do this for the sake of justice, for the sake of a fair trial.
Chief Investigative Judge Rod Juhi already knows what it's like to have the eyes of the nation on him. Last July, many Americans were transfixed by these pictures of Saddam Hussein, a dictator who for 30 years survived assassination attempts, uprisings, and the Gulf War, being hauled into court. A bigger shock to many Iraqis was that Judge Juhi allowed himself to be seen on camera. For Iraqis knew that by appearing on television, Juhi put a bullseye on his forehead and also on his family, friends, and colleagues.
We want to show the world Iraq does have a solid legal system, and it's independent.
As you will see, the Iraqi system also differs from the U.S. legal system in many respects. For starters, in Iraq, judges like Juhi, working with prosecutors like Abdul-Jabbar, investigate the crimes and build the cases, then turn their work over to other judges who try the case. Juhi lives and works under constant guard in Baghdad's protected green zone. We met up with him there in his new offices, still under construction.
Why do you keep putting yourself in these difficult situations?
It is not the issue whether I continue to work on a difficult or dangerous trial. This is my duty. We want to show the rule of law, is not the rule of revenge.
Juhi and Abdul-Jabbar have spent almost 2 years preparing the first cases set to go before the tribunal. They've called through 30 years of government documents, some recovered from Saddam's own intelligence office. Mass graves have been exhumed and witnesses located and interviewed, all while terrorist assassins and bombers do what they can to drive the country into chaos.
How many witnesses have you interviewed since you began this process?
Some days I see 8 to 9 witnesses, and that is more than an hour per person. And it's not just witnesses. I've gone through thousands of documents.
This trial will expose many crimes that the people of Iraq never knew about.
Are you saying there are new crimes, new atrocities?
Oh yes, there are many other cases.
Investigators say Saddam could be tried for over 300 crimes. But for now at least, they focused on about a dozen. They include crimes of aggression, like the invasion of Kuwait, which resulted in the 1991 Gulf War, and subsequent violent suppression of mass uprisings in the north and the south. Crimes against humanity, like the destruction of the southern marshlands and the forced deportation of thousands of Faili Kurds to Iran. But the biggest and most notorious is the genocidal chemical weapons attack on the Iraqi Kurds in 1988. Over 5,000 people were killed and thousands more were injured, making it the largest chemical weapons attack ever against a civilian population. Saddam's campaign was intricately planned, meticulously documented, and even given a code name. Called Anfal, meaning spoils of war, Saddam targeted Kurds with mass deportations and mass murder. The scale of these crimes is one thing, but proving Saddam's guilt in a court of law is another. So despite impressive, courageous, and driven jurists like Juhi and Abdul-Jabbar, it's easy to doubt a legal system atrophied for decades under Saddam's rule can handle a massive prosecution like this.
But what I'm confident about is that these judges were adequately selected and vetted, that they've been adequately trained. But once the trial starts, anything can happen.
Michael Sharf has personally trained Juhi, Abdul-Jabbar, and others on the Iraqi Special Tribunal who we won't show to protect their identities. Sharf, a law professor at Cleveland's Case Western Reserve University, was recently nominated for the Nobel Prize for his work to bring war criminals to justice in Sierra Leone, the former Yugoslavia, and Rwanda. Those trials took place under the banner of the United Nations. For reasons we'll explain later, the trial of Saddam will not. But that doesn't worry Sharf. He says the Iraqi tribunal meets international legal standards.
The way they've achieved that is by having a statute that's based on the Yugoslavia and Rwanda tribunal statutes, these international statutes that fulfill all the requirements of international law.
One thing Sharf did fear is that the Americans might be pulling all the strings.
I thought that this was basically a kangaroo court controlled by the United States. The more I learned about it, the more I learned that it was actually a very valid and effective tribunal.
Some U.S. advisors are concerned that failing to start with a genocide case is a mistake. But Sharf disagrees.
I actually think it's brilliant.
Sharf says Judicial is the clearest, most manageable of all the possible cases the prosecution could bring. And he says they'll have plenty of evidence to prove one toughest element of the crime alleged, that Saddam was indeed calling the shots.
He was a leader with infinite close control. The insiders who participated in Judicial and are likely to testify are all going to make this a very strong case.
In fact, those insiders will actually stand trial alongside Saddam. They are Saddam's half-brother, Barzan Ibrahim al-Takriti, former Vice President Taha Yassin Ramadan, Awad Hamad al-Bandar, head of the Revolutionary Court, and two local Ba'ath Party officials, Kadam al-Mushaki and his son, Mizher.
I can tell you these defendants have cooperated and have admitted to getting written documents or verbal orders from the Ba'ath regime to commit these crimes.
There's one more advantage to bringing this manageable, clear-cut case first, Sharf says. One that will force prosecutors to focus on and dispose of for good any broad attacks by Saddam on the legitimacy of the tribunal, its judges, or its evidence.
Above me is a verse from the Quran that reads, "If you must judge, judge wisely." It is fitting that these words overlook this courtroom, where all final decisions about Saddam Hussein will be made.
Under Iraqi civil law, investigative judges, not prosecutors, collect evidence and determine if there's enough to bring charges. As we told you earlier, that probe was the job of this man, Judge Rod Juhi, who defied danger by investigating Saddam's crimes at Judicial. That slaughter of a town will be the first case to be tried by the Iraqi Special Tribunal.
By the time the proceedings reach this chamber, Judge Rod's work will be done, and the fate of Saddam Hussein will be in the hands of a 5-judge panel that will sit right here.
Greg, give back us to the history.
Do you recognize yourself?
A little bit. But I know, I was looking to my hair. His hair is darker than now.
We all can say that. As you were looking at that, and that was probably 4 years ago,
2004, 2005.
That's right, 2005. So 5+ years ago. What were you thinking at the time when this, much has happened since then, but as you were really preparing and the trial had not started at that point, your job had pretty much wound up as an investigative law judge. What was kind of running through your mind?
As the journalist is mentioned there, the mission is a huge mission. You have to work over 35 years. Documents, massive grave, witnesses. So, frankly, if I told you I don't have time to think about myself because I have to prepare each single word. I know exactly this court, it's domestic court, but it has to reach the international standard. The first thing, I set up all the department because my mission as a chief investigative judge, I have to do this. Department of the massive grave, department of the documents, 24 investigative judges, legal assistant, and investigator, a lot of staff. It's around 900 individuals working this mission. Behind the scene, no one can see them. So we went over each single word and document just to bring the rule of law to Iraq. Most of Iraqi people, when they talk about the rule of law, they think Hammurabi. Hammurabi is Iraqi, 3,000 years ago, the first code there. So then they miss the rule of law. 2003, it's the best opportunity to bring the rule of law back to Iraq. Our mission, we thought this is our duty as a judges to bring the rule of law back to our society so the society can feel the rule of law again. If you think, you are in the United States, living in the United States here, maybe some of you have some experience about the Middle East, some not. But in the Middle East, it's impossible, almost impossible, to bring the head of the state to the justice because they think no one can reach them. This is the first time to send a message for each person in the society and over the Arab countries. The head of the state is not out of order. He is under the rule of law. So this is our mission that time, how to bring the rule of law back to Iraq.
Where were you born?
I born in Baghdad.
You were born in Baghdad?
Yeah.
And during that time period, what was the rule and what was the rule of law during that time when you were growing up?
By the way, I born during Saddam's regime. When Saddam in power, I born. So when I raised Saddam in position, Saddam set up two things. He set up, I'm talking about the judicial issues and the legal system, not other issues. Set up judicial system for himself and the regular judicial system. Regular judicial system involved with family laws, contract tort, regular crimes. And the special system, it's connected with each politics crime. So this special system, the one-shot trial, and the judges there, most of the judges in this system, they are not judges. They have legal background or military background, and they are admitted and appointed as judges. And the court, running by the security or intelligence department, or Minister of Interior, or special forces, whatever, and General Security Office. This is. So I raised in this area, if you have to live safely, you have to be sure, don't talk about the politics. And don't look to the president of the state as a regular person. You have to look at him as a person over the law. Yeah.
When you went to law school, Saddam was still in power.
Yep.
And what were your professors teaching you about the relationship between the president, Saddam Hussein, and the judiciary? I know you talked about the fact the president's over and you don't really have any control over him. Like we here have a balance checks and balances between our judiciary and our executive and legislature. That apparently didn't happen in Iraq.
Before I mention this, I want to tell you some small story here. By the way, education in Iraq is free, but depend on the grade you get. If you get high grade, you get free education. You know, I get this opportunity. And the School of Law in humanitarian department, because in high school we have a humanitarian and science. If you go science, you go doctor and engineer and whatever. If you go humanitarian, law school, economic and teaching. I went to humanitarian. And I admitted by law school. And other some, colleges. My father told me when I told him, I'm going to the law school. He said, look, this tough job, if you be responsible for the law, go. If you will make me proud, go. If not, pick another school. I said, I will do my best. Then we study Saddam. We study Saddam's knowledge in law school and even in Judicial Institute. So Saddam, each year, he published, not articles, but speech related to law, related to science, related to anything. And if you are in this area of law, you have to study this, and you have to pass exam in this. So, and Saddam has very unique word. One day he said, I make the law. I can write it and I can erase it. And he did, because as the as the head of the state, he has this power under the Iraq constitution. So that's what our professor teaches us. Saddam is part of law or law sometime. Yeah.
Well, I know just using the German Nazi time period, most everything that Hitler did was legal because of the Reichstag, which was their legislative, authorized him to create law. So when he gave out an order, it had the force of law. Is this sort of a similar situation?
I think Saddam studies Hitler, Stalin, charisma, both of them. Then he divided his personality with this kind of charisma. He studied and read a lot about Stalin, but maybe Hitler is not. Yeah, so he tried to legalize everything. For that reason, he set up, the Revolution Court. The Revolution Court, if you go to the process of the Revolution Court, if someone arrested for the politics issues, and he went to the Revolution Court, he has one chance, just the trial, one shot. And if he gets life sentence, he's so lucky, because 90% of the verdict is death penalty. So this court, Saddam did not do anything. The guy arrested by the security people, and the security people did the investigation, and they referred the guy to the court, and the court executed him. So he's out of business. However, how this running? It's running by people understand what Saddam's want. Yeah. And we study all this. For that reason, I come back to the first question: how Daesh and why Daesh is important for Iraqis? Because we'll change all this. We'll let people understand. No way. There is no revolution court anymore. There is rule of law anymore. And no one can get out of responsibility if he did anything wrong.
You were appointed the chief investigative judge for the Iraqi High Tribunal. And in that role, your job was really to review evidence, find evidence. The prosecutor seemingly would present evidence to you, and you'd sort of review it. What other role did you have in the form of chief investigative judge?
By the way, I appointed as a judge in this court, and I elected by my colleagues as a chief investigative judge. Yeah, because the position should be elected by your colleagues as a judges. Yeah, it's your position as a chief investigative judge. You are responsible to review all the cases, and you have to appoint judges, investigative judges working each 1 or 2 or 3 for certain case. That's one. Also, what I did, I wrote the draft of the rule of evidence for the Iraqi High Tribunal, which is, apply later, and it's made part of the Iraqi law by the Iraqi parliament. And I get all this rule of evidence from the Yugoslavia tribunal. Then I mix it with the Iraqi criminal procedure law, so it's become fit with our system. This is 2 things. Third, I do my mission as investigative judge also. So I did investigation in both cases, Judicial and Al-Anfal. Al-Anfal is maybe one of the biggest crimes in Iraq is during 1987, 1988. So this is the mission. 1, investigative judge, as a judge. 2nd, chief, administrative work, review all the cases, go over the documents, which is 21 tons documents we had there, and mass graves, it's all the facilities there. Then, 2005, the Iraqi High Tribunal statute changed, and the law required the spokesman should be judge, and the president of the court appoint me as a spokesman. So he put another responsibility on my shoulder. Yeah. So almost this is, so media, legal and administrative staff.
Lot.
Yeah.
As you started your job in the investigative role of looking at the evidence, I know that you were able to have access to many documents which came from Saddam's offices and palace, but you also went out and had to go to sites like we saw in the movie here. Mm-hmm. How did that affect you?
Let me be honest with you. If you go to the mass grave area, it affects you, yes. But when you go to the villages, when you survive people there, when people already arrested and should be executed, but they lucky enough and still alive. When they told you the story, it's the biggest shot here. It's really affect a lot. So we stopped the investigation a lot because the stories is so hard. When you listen to young girl, she arrested with her mom and siblings, and then they execute her family in front of her, and she explained that to you, and she crying, and you cannot. You are a person. You are a judge, yes, but you are a human being. Many times I ordered my team to stop the investigation because stories affect us. We have to stop. Otherwise, we will miss the rule. To be judge, you have to be fair. You have 2 things. You have victim and you have accused. You have to be balanced between them. So we stop a lot of sessions. Not just that, if you listen to old guy who lost 13 members of his family, sons and grandchildren, it's affect a lot. This is the biggest stories. And we spend month between mountains and desert and places, interview people there. Because we interview, I did not answer Dan Senor about the interview because it was secret until that time, but we interviewed 10,000 individuals. 10,000. Not by myself, all team. We are 900 individual working. Yes, we have around 400 for protection and security, but 600 in field working. Yeah.
You mentioned you talked about security. Did you feel at risk?
Greg, I'm a judge during Saddam's regime. When Saddam's the president, I was judge. I still keep my position. When I decide to be a judge, I understand there is danger, there is risk. Maybe it's not high than the Saddam's case, But always there is danger. And always I have to remember I have a duty to do it. If I look about the security and safety, I cannot be fair judge in my chamber. When I do my job, I do my job. That's it. And I believe in something. I don't know if I'm going to stay tomorrow or not. So I live in my moment. I have to make my decision accurately, fairly, and I make my decision when I make sure it is the right decision to make it. Before Saddam, I investigate Muqtada al-Sadr. Muqtada al-Sadr now is considered one of the Iraqis' leaders, and he's still wanted. I issue arrest warrant against him in 2003 for murder case. Muqtada al-Sadr has a militia until this minute control most of the south and Baghdad. So as a judge, I have to do it. No way. Otherwise, I have to leave my chamber, find another job. Yeah.
Did you move your family into the green zone?
2004, after my home is attacked in Baghdad, because I lost 2 homes, I moved my family. Yeah.
You, as the chief investigative law judge, gathered the evidence. You worked on the indictment. And then the day comes, we saw a little bit, where you're given the responsibility to have the president, former president of Iraq, come into the chamber, and it's just basically you and him. What's going on? What's going on in your mind?
I was driving this morning in my car from my home to my chamber, and I would turn the radio on. And there is rumor said Saddam they will bring Saddam to court. And one guy said, that's impossible. No one can bring Saddam to the court. And other person said in the radio, he said, I don't think there is person can sit face to face to Saddam. This kind of feeling inside Iraqi minds should be changed. Should be changed. When they ask me to do this mission, I don't have enough time to prepare everything. I don't have months. No, I have limited time to do it. So I can tell you, frankly, sometimes I miss myself, because working around 16 hours a day, gathering documents, then my team asked me the same question. Said, Judge Raed, you are going to face this guy next few days. What do you think? I said, look at him as a regular, perpetrator. Don't look at him as a Saddam or something like that. If you put this in your mind, you will be out of mission. You cannot do it. Put him in his cage and work with him as accused. Give him his right. Teach him how he's respond. Let him know there is rule of law and there is judge and court. Otherwise, you cannot do it. Forget he's the president. He's accused. He's under the law. That's it. And each one of you prosecute a lot of people. And this guy just another number added to your list. Don't think about other issues. I cannot ignore Saddam. But if I put Saddam in high position, maybe I cannot, control him 100%. So I put him in his right position, as accused, that's it. I did not look at him as a president or something like that. I look at him as accused in front of me like other one.
Still, he's looking at you, and you're looking at him.
Definitely.
And we just saw that, he's got these eyes that just sort of, it wasn't that simple.
Let me tell you something about, this is something secret.
Okay.
One,
keep the camera on.
in one session, because we spent a lot of sessions with Saddam, in one session, eye to eye, more than 2 minutes, no one moved his eyes. until, because there is very hard topic discussion, and we ask, and he answer, and we ask in sensitive question, and he got it. Then he stuck, and we stuck. I said, you have to answer it. Otherwise, you can't keep because you waive your right because you waive your right to remain silent. In the beginning, I gave you a right. You can remain silent or not. He said, no, I will talk. I said, you have to answer the question. And 2 minutes, eye to eye. Then answer.
Good for you. So the actual indictment, of which, again, we just saw a piece of, it lasted for a few days.
Oh, yeah. In the beginning, first day, it just first hearing, the right, right of, all the rights. But, then when we get the defense counsel for them, we start the sessions. And we took it, we start in 2004, until 2006, but we finished with Saddam in mid of 2005.
And you had to do the same thing for the other 6 defendants as well? Did you read the indictments, the Chemical Alley and
7 in Judicial, 6 in Al-Anfal, and more in 1991.
Okay.
It's 11 in 1991. And yeah, same. We did same, everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you got done with that indictment process, what was your next role? What was your role in this?
When you done the investigation from the E to Z, you have and gather all the evidence, the prosecutor's evidence, the victim evidence, the accused evidence, defense counsel evidence, and your investigator's evidence. You gather all the evidence. You have to close the investigation session and reread it all and go over each single, word and document. And sometimes you find there is late and there is some information missing. So you can't open the investigation again to fill this gap. If you find the investigation is done, you have to make the final decision. Is there enough evidence against this accused to refer him to the trial or not? If there is enough evidence, you have to refer him to the trial. According to the Iraqi criminal procedure law. If not, you have to release him. Yeah. So when we done, we went over all the documents and the process, and we found Saddam. There is enough evidence to charge Saddam in crime against humanity in the jail. So we charge him and refer him with other 7 to the jail. And we found enough evidence against Saddam to charge him in genocide in Al-Anfal. So we refer him to trial on the Anfal case also. But we released other accused because people knows the accused who went to the trial. But before the trial, maybe there is 10 accused, 11 accused, and we released some of them. In the jail, in the beginning, we have 10. We release 2 from them. And we refer, no, we release 3, we refer 7. 6 of them indicted and 1 released. Yeah.
I guess for our purposes, it's in the United States, it sounds like you were part of as if you went to a grand jury, and then the grand jury decided there was enough evidence to indict, which in turn would be given to the prosecution.
It's a close. It's a close to that. It's but you have much responsibility, because you have expert witnesses, and we have lay witnesses, and victims, accused, and you have interview all of them.
So you see a lot more evidence early on.
Yeah. All the process in the trial, all the process you see in the trial, it's same in the investigation, and sometimes more than that, because you build the case from the beginning until the end, and the trial work they go over your work. So sometimes, if the witness cannot show up in the trial, the trial judges did not dismiss this testimony. They will look at it and take it as investigative judge sign it. if the investigative sign this document, they will accept it. So all the process in trial, it's same in the investigation, except we did not send people to jail or death penalty, because we believe this is second chance to the accused. First chance he lost in the investigation, we give him second chance. Maybe he get new information, new evidence, a new document, he can release himself. So second chance in the trial. However, the investigative judge can make verdict in some cases, so can sentence people. But in capital penalties, like this cases, no. Investigative judge is one guy, but the panel is 5 judges. It's good opportunity for the accused to defend himself in front of 5 judges than 1 judge. And we believe in five brains better than 1 brain. So as investigative judge said, okay, you lost your case in front of me, but you have another chance. 99% he will lose second chance, but still there is 1% he can't get it. And sometimes it's happened. A lot happens.
We noticed that when it went to trial, early on, at least only one of the judges permitted himself to be filmed because it's for security reasons. You permitted yourself to be filmed during the reading of the indictment. Was that a hard decision for you?
That's back me to my father. I remember that exactly. And I told him, I was judge in Central Criminal Court of Iraq before I became a judge in this court. And they appointed me to be judge there. I know the responsibility is big, and I told my father. I said, I'm going to take another position with my siblings. So he said, do it. I said, no, it's not a matter of do it. I'm thinking about your security, not my security. He said, don't think about our security. As I told you from the beginning, few years ago, which is not a few years ago, actually, it's more than, this is 20 years ago. If you can't make your duty, do it. This is your duty. Security, don't worry about it. It's not easy, but it's very important to let people believe, especially in Iraq, believe there is rule of law, and still there is judges can do their duty and prosecute who they think commits a crime against Iraqi people. Yeah, it is not easy decision, but when I did it, I'm in full free and full responsibility. It's important to do it.
When that occurred, did you get any feedback? You really exposed yourself. You did put a target on your back. And what kind of feedback did you get?
What do you mean about the feedback? For the security or?
Well, they're seeing the whole Iraqi world. The world is seeing you indict Saddam Hussein. Did people call you and say, "What are you, nuts?"
By the way, we don't have cell phone that time in Iraq. We communicate sometimes. If you have home phone, this is okay. That's enough for us at that time. We don't have cell phone. It is connect for the security, not security of people. No, security of the government. They did not allow the cell phone. Anyway, yeah, there is 2 reactions. One, people say we are proud of you, and there is a lot of story about these issues because there is a lot of volunteers went to my father's home just for they can help and protect. And another also there is a reaction for people preparing to assassinate me, So it's both reactions, but people think this is the first healthy step for future of Iraq, and really a lot of people appreciate this point and this moment. And by the way, my oldest son has no idea I will going to do this mission. So when he saw me in the TV, he has no idea. And he's looked at this and he told to his mom, Mom, my father on TV. And my wife said, what he's doing on TV? He said,
Well, you did a very brave thing to advance the rule of law. And I'm just for a second going to pause and give you a hand. I mean, that's just amazing. Because you need to know that during the first trial, the Judicial trial, 3 of the defense counsel for Saddam Hussein and the other 6 defendants were assassinated.
yeah,
And it was quite a process where they sought security from the judges and ultimately got some protection, but it was a very, very dangerous time for judges who clearly, some of them didn't want their faces to be seen on television, and the defense counsel, and that was very, very damaging. So for what you did, it's remarkable.
by the way, also, we kept many stories a secret because we like to move forward with the rule of law. Not just the defense counsel. The judges also assassinate. I lost one of my team. He assassinated. And a lot of, investigator and legal assistant. But I was kept all this information secret because I don't like to affect my team and other people to stop missions. I remember, one of my best judges assassinated in the middle of Baghdad. And I told my team that time, said, look, that's expected. When we accept this mission, we know someone will kill us. But we have 2 choices. Now told me, are you going to continue with me or you quit? If you are going to continue with me, let's continue. These bad guys, let's send them to jail. And a lot of people stay with me, until this mission. I'm here in the United States, and they continue there. They are proud, and they are heroes there, frankly. They fighting for justice, rule of law. It's not easy work to do, but they did it.
At the end of World War II, in Germany, there was a process known as de-baathification.
Yeah.
And throughout the process of interviews to see folks who were involved in the party politics and how far they were involved in party politics, you were involved in a process of de-baathification.
Yep.
Talk about that.
Let me get some light in this area before I talk about the de-baathification. In Iraq, Saddam has strategy for everything. One of his strategy, he has to make everybody Ba'athist in Iraq. So Ba'ath party required from the 6th grade. If you are in 6th grade, you have to sign documents, you are a member in Ba'ath party. When I graduated from the law school, I applied for the master degree there. And I passed all the exams, but I did not admit it because I'm not high rank member of the Ba'ath party. In Judicial Institute, when I applied in Judicial Institute, it's required to be Ba'athist. Otherwise, you cannot get your seat. Even you pass all the, required exams, you fill all the, it is requirement conditions, you have to be Ba'athist. And this is required. There is 2 kinds of Ba'athists in Iraq. People record or put their name in the Ba'ath party record to continue their life there and get position and continue studies or something like that. And there is Ba'athists who believe in the Ba'ath ideology. 2003, CPA Order 1 established De-baathification Committee. The goal and the role of the De-baathification Committee, it's to work over 3 ranks of Ba'athists, which almost 90% of Baathists not reach these 3 ranks because it's high ranks, including me. I cannot reach these ranks. 2003, 2004, there is no problem because De-baathification committee working according to the rule of this committee. 2005, when the election, the first election in Iraq, which is important, took opportunity. The politics control the De-baathification department. Controlled 100%. And they start to make a deal with some professional people. Working, following this process, you're okay out of this process, of the De-baathification process. If not, you have 3 choices. 1, quit and leave. Second, maybe depend on your position and the question on your request you get. And if you remember, 2005, 2006, it's a huge chaos in Iraq. If you said no, maybe somebody will kidnapping you. Otherwise, if you said no, you are Baathist and they will fire you if you are from your position. If they fire you, just imagine this. They did not ask a regular person to do something. Definitely they asked someone in position to do some rule. And this guy, if they fired from his position, that's look like, death penalty decision. Because you will lose all the protection you have and you will start the regular life. So it's easy for anyone to assassinate you or kill you on the street. 2005, 2006, that's it. 2005, I'm involved in De-baathification. And I remember that story. It's this one person called me, said, "Sir, your name is on the list for the De-baathification." I said, "Yeah, let them do it. Why not?" I said, "What?" I said, "Look, this is bullshit." We're involved in this mission more than 1 year ago now. And we went to the TV and we've almost finished the investigation. And later, sorry for this word, I said this exactly, quote, later, some kids coming to say De-baathification, let them go. I have access for some phone calls. I get my phone, I call somebody. I said, "Look, you have 2 things. 1, let us work. 2nd, I will go to the media right now. Bye." So they start to use De-baathification as a tool to, let's see this, if someone say no, move him from this position. That's not my speech. It is one of the director in the De-baathification committee. He did interview in 2006, and he said that. He said, De-baathification used as a tool by the politics parties. And they use it exactly when they need it, and they leave it when they don't need it. So the process, it's missed. And the goal of the De-baathification committee is missed also. The goal of the De-baathification committee to restore the Iraqi society again. And the De-baathification, the De-baathification, the ideology of the Baathist, not the De-baathification for the people. If you are talking about the Baathist people in Iraq, which means you are talking about all the young people and old people. Because as I said, from 6th grade until, maybe 60 years or something like that. So if you're talking about De-baathification people, that's wrong. You destroy the society. 2003, it's turning point in Iraqi society. So we have to think about the reconciliation, restore the society, rebuild the society, and let's say this also, re-educate our people. Not destroy the society and say, you are Baathist, you are Shia, you are... No. But it's happened. And until this minute. If someone followed the process in Iraq, this election a few days ago, and we wait for the result tomorrow. you know, they, you know, remove 511 individual from the, from 511 candidate from the election because they said they are cooperate with the Ba'athist. Frankly, some of them yes, but most of them not. Yeah, so I involve a lot. Politics have some agenda, and they sometimes try to use the legal on the rule of law to pass their agenda. So when my team and I start to stop them, second day we found we are Ba'athist, you know. But if someone follow the agenda, he's not Ba'athist. Yeah. But at least in the end, we win. Yeah. Even they tried, but we win. Yeah.
The first case they chose was the Judicial case. Were you part of that decision? Because that seemingly, just on the small clip we had there was some controversy whether that should be the first case or whether you wanted to do the Anfar case, which was the genocide case,
Yeah.
much more damning. But the first case might have been easier to prosecute. Were you part of that decision? As to
I
which
made
one
it.
to start? You
I
did?
made it.
Okay.
You know, this is not part of it. I made it. You know.
Now you know, fans.
As I said, I built the two cases. It's my mission as an investigative judge, not as a chief investigative judge. As an investigative judge, two cases, Anfal and Dajjal. Dajjal, it's very, I'm talking about the international standard. Dajjal, it's very clear and limited case. Something happened one day, the result went around 8 years. From that day until 8 years. We have limited number of witnesses, limited number of accused, limited number of documents, and it's a clear mission. Dajjal, a small area. The story is tried to assassinate Saddam when he went there, 1981. 81, yeah. It's in July 8. Then he said there is 2 people involved. Then he arrested 500 individuals and execute 150. It's send other people to the desert for 4 years, exile them outside, destroy all the land, destroy all the property, all. It's limited case. Compare this with Al-Anfal. Al-Anfal, 180,000 victims, people die. You know, just put this in mind. How many people I have to interview? Compare 500 with 180,000. You know, it's 1 month mission for the Dajjal compared with military mission for 6 months for Al-Anfal. So I finished the investigation in the Dajjal earlier, before the Al-Anfal. And there is some discussion in my mind in that time. Is if I don't finish this, I have to wait until Al-Anfal. But when I finish it as a judge, it's not a matter of politics, it's a matter of law. I cannot keep the accused or the victims or the documents under my desk because I want. No. When I finish legally, I have to sign the decision. And this is what happened. It's limited case, clear case, the evidence is clear. So that's it. Then we continue later and finish Al-Anfal later, I think 1 year later.
The Judicial case, the chief judge saw that politics intervened, the first chief judge.
Yeah, Rizgar.
And he was deemed to be too tolerant and was removed.
Actually, he's resigned, he's not removed, yeah.
And then you had a new chief judge come on with that, and he got caught up in the de-baathification process. Then you had a third chief judge, and I guess as you were observing all this, because you lived part of it, you know, seeing the politics involved in the process of the judiciary. Did that bother you?
A lot. It's in that time, I took my position. That's the early. No, during Rizgar, until this minute, I was not the spokesman of the court. Later, the president said you have to be the spokesman. The first judge in Al-Anfal, Judge Rizgar, by the way, he's now, it's justice in Kurdistan. Yeah, Court of Cassation in Kurdistan, North region of Iraq. He's one of the smartest judges in Iraq, and we respect him a lot. And he's really the rule of law guy there. And we had a lot of discussion. Colleagues, judges, exchange ideas before the trial. I told him that you don't expect it will be easy mission. Then he found it's after the media involved, politics involved. He said, "Look, I don't like to bother myself. Yes, it's important to continue, but I don't know if I make my judgment fairly or not in the end. And if I did not make my judgment fairly, I will destroy myself." Then he resigned. No one removed him. This is history. He wrote his letter by his hand. And he said, "I'm out of this court." And he submitted the letter to the president. And according to the rule of law, and to the rule of the evidence in Iraqi High Tribunal, if the judge decides to resign, he don't need to do anything. Just write the letter and leave the court. That's it. No, he will be out of the court. Then Judge Saeed came to chamber, and the de-baathification involved again. And they win. Judge Saeed did not take the position because they sent a letter, he's involved in the de-baathification. And he's the funny issues. His name is Saeed Khudr al-Hammashi, and they send the letter Saeed Khudr Hammash, which is there is something in the end of his name. After 6 months of the back and forth between de-baathification and the Iraqi High Tribunal, which means Judge Saeed will be out of chamber at that time, and Judge Raouf took the position. But later, the de-baathification said, "Sorry, it's mistake. Sorry, it's name mistake. It's different person." But how many times it took? Months. Month. Judge's life, judge's family, judge's integrity, judge's responsibility. Judge, he lived everywhere. Judge lived in his integrity. If someone touched this, this is very hard for him. And after 4 or 5 months came, said, "Sorry, it's just same name, different person." That's unacceptable. So Judge Saeed is back to the court, and now he's in his position again. But after time, it's not matter of salary or matter of cases, no, matter of what he's feeling. Judge Saeed is one of the brave judges, and he said, "I will fight these guys because I'm not member of this rank." Even they say it, but I will prove I'm not. And he did, and he back to his position right now. Judge Raouf took the position, and he followed the process that time.
Is it Judge Raouf
Rahman, yeah.
Came in and sort of created you've concluded that trial as the chief judge. And ultimately, Hussein was convicted, and then there was an appeal.
Yes.
And during the appeal process, Anfar trial started.
Between Al-Anfal started in August 2006, and the verdict of Judicial, it's in November 5th, 2006. So during Judicial, Al-Anfal started. Yeah.
Then the appeal was denied, and things start happening.
Yeah.
Refresh everybody's recollection, what happened now that the first trial had concluded, the appeal had been denied, and now there's a whole lot of politics going on with just the transfer of Saddam Hussein and how to deal with that whole issue. Were you part of that at all?
I'm not. I cannot say yes, I cannot no. It's not legally, maybe for advising, because when the appeal denied, the responsibility of the court is done. It's a three-stage process: investigation, trial, and appeal. When the appeal chamber put his signature, the judges sign, we are out of business anymore. However, maybe they exchange ideas with us. When the appeal sign and deny the appeal, they send the file to the Prime Minister's office if there is death penalty. If there is no death penalty, they will send the file to the Minister of Justice and put the guy in jail, who is convicted. But for the death penalty, they send the file to the Prime Minister's office. So it's executive process. It's not judicial process. However, the execution committee, there is execution called execution committee. The head of the execution committee is judge, should be judge, or must be judge. And there is a prosecutor also, doctor, representative from Minister of Interior, representative from Minister of Justice, and clerk, depend on the religion of the person who's convicted. If he's Muslim, they bring Muslim clerk, Jewish, Christian, however. So this is the committee. The head of the committee is the judge. So they exchange ideas with us for this. It's politics, executive process. However, this process must follow the criminal procedure law. It's not open. No, there is rule for the execution. And the rule, it's in criminal procedure law, article 280 until 292. Yeah, should be followed exactly. Yeah.
Were you worried that the Anfar case, which had just been started, which was probably with the genocide, with the extreme crimes against humanity, that having the sentence of execution completed would take away from the world's interest in that case?
The law is the law. The guy convicted in one crime, whatever, killed one person or 10,000 persons. This is the law. And we are working in this area. So Saddam's convicted in the jail. I understood when he convicted, he will face the death penalty anytime. And maybe he execute in the beginning of the jail, the mid of the jail, or they remain him until the end of other cases, the jail or Halabja or others, depend. And we have to respect the law. This is the process. We don't have any doubt in these issues. But also, the Anfal, it's a big case. It's good to keep all the accused to defend themselves in their case. And we are a legal community. If someone die before find him guilty, he will consider as an innocent. And the biggest example for this, Milosevic case. Milosevic died during the trial. He did not convicted. Then he died. Legally, even you have tons of documents, as the judges, we consider him as innocent person because we did not sign the verdict. This point did not affect judges. This point affect the victim's right. Yes, Saddam is convicted and found guilty in one case, and that's enough. But in each case, let's go outside now, and one guy took your wallet. You know? Then you catch him and went him to the court, then he has sickness and die. This is affects your something in yourself, because he said, look, I did not get my verdict yet. We are talking about 300,000 people die in 1991, and 180,000 people die in Anfal, and 5,000 in Halabja. So it's not affect the justice exactly, because justice is justice. The rule of law is the rule of law. Saddam is found guilty in the jail, and that's enough. But it's affect the right of victims to support their cases. It's good to find Saddam guilty in one case, better than he die before any case, you know, because otherwise he will consider maybe innocent for all cases. This is, some scholars don't focus about this area, but I think, this is my personal opinion, it's important and part of justice to let both parties participate and the victim support his case and the accused defend his case, and the judges, you know, tell their word in the end. Otherwise, you know, you will miss one part. Execute the bad guy, but what the others? They have a right. People in the jail get their right, but there is people in Anfal, people in Halabja, people, and Saddam also has a right to defend himself. Maybe Saddam, he's innocent in Halabja. Maybe he's innocent in 1991. No one knows. Unless the evidence talk. We have expression in Iraqi, you know, it's an Iraqi criminal procedure. We said, as a judges, we don't talk. The evidences talk. Yeah. So this is my theory about the jail and the Anfal.
Hussein, during the Judicial case, at one point shocked everybody, stood up when they were talking about presenting various orders and whether he had signed them, and said, I signed them. Blame me, don't blame these guys. When you saw that on television, what was your reaction to this?
I was lying on my sofa in my home. You know, did not come, you know, suddenly and, you know, no. This is hard work. We spent more than 1 year to let Saddam come in this area. And Saddam understood. He did same thing during the investigation. During the investigation, Saddam tried to defend himself a lot. Then later, he said, I'm responsible for everything. I signed all these orders. I ordered these people to do this and this and that. They follow my order. That's during the investigation. And when it came to the live and in the TV, in the trial, it was a great moment because part of the investigation, it's all part of a secret, no one can see it. But when people in the Iraqi society saw this, it's a great minute for justice because people saw when the accused confessed that I'm responsible for these crimes. And this is part of the, you know, teaching lesson of the Iraqi High Tribunal for the Iraqi society. When we decide to be, you know, televise this trial, because we like to educate our people, what the rule of law means, what the human rights means, what the right of the accused means, what the right of the victims means. So this one off. So I was very, very happy. You know, frankly, I was lying in my, you know, court. And when he said, yes, this is the minute, you know, because he's now confessed. When you watch a movie, there is two things stuck in your minds: the introduction and the end. The rest, maybe slightly you remember. We went over very, very good, you know, a process during the trial. Yes, there is some shocking, some lying, but this is rule of law. This is the law, and we follow it. And Saddam has opportunity to defend himself. He's talked, in the jail itself, he's talked 39 times. And his defense counsel took the opportunity. But the execution, I said before, it's looked like little dust on the food or on the something like that. It is not good image to end the process of the rule of law. For two reasons. One, there is some discussion about the day it's allowed to execute person or not on this day, and there is no reason to broadcast this, this minute. It's rough minute, when you hang someone. It's not easy for overseas or even for Iraqi people. We have a new rule to educate ourselves and our people. Yes, still chaos there, a lot of people die there, but we don't need to broadcast picture when we hang someone. Follow the rule of law, hang him, and send, it's his announcement or any statement said Saddam is hanging and this is his body, and send his body to his family according to the law, and that's it. You don't need to broadcast that and send people with siphon. No. And I said, this is the fault of the judge there, the head of the committee. If he's allowed to, someone went inside the process with the siphon, this is his fault because he's the head. I did not involve in this mission. Yeah. There is another one, Cully, he's involved in this mission.
We're here in the Robert H. Jackson Center, and we have a lot of distinguished folks in our midst. And Robert H. Jackson, of course, was the chief American prosecutor at the Nuremberg trial, which was the first trial to bring individuals and hold them accountable for crimes against humanity, crimes against peace, so on. That started in 1945, 46 at Nuremberg, and here you were in the middle as the chief investigative law judge of the Saddam Hussein trial in 2004, 2006, so on. Is there a connection between what happened in Nuremberg and Jackson's work and what you did in your work at the Saddam Hussein trial?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's international justice. This is the international justice. The leader not out of responsibility, the leader under the rule of law. So Nuremberg built the base of the international justice when they prosecute the Nazis. Yes, there is a brother for Nuremberg, no one talk about it a lot, it's Tokyo. No, there is nobody, somebody wrote about Tokyo trials, but it's not popular like Nuremberg. But Nuremberg is the basic fundamental, international standard for the war crime and crime against humanity and something like that. And this, the lesson of the Nuremberg, it's the head of the state did not have any immunity, or he's not out of responsibility. No, he's responsible for what he did. This is the beginning, and Iraqi High Tribunal, I think it's one of its results. It's international justice, to bring head of the state to justice. Yeah, absolutely. There is big bridge between Nuremberg and other trial. Without Nuremberg, we don't have ICTY, we don't have ICTR, we don't have Iraqi High Tribunal, because we started from there. Yeah. And yes, maybe we did good job, and people think describe us, brave, but frankly, people in Nuremberg, without them, we did not do anything, because they start, and we just continue.
Speaking of continuing, we could do this probably forever here, but I must tell you, I've done this a few times and had interviews. I have never seen an audience which has not moved. They've been so riveted listening to you, your story, and to me, one of the great testimonies of you as a character, presenting yourself, putting yourself into harm's way in a national and an international way is just a role model, an exemplar to all jurists who would be involved. And I'm going to conclude on that and just say thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, Judge Rod Juhi. happen to have my daughter who's an attorney with the Detroit Tigers. And if nothing else, I'd like to make sure that you're welcome. And here's a Detroit Tigers jacket.
Thank you very much. I said, what a great doing, you know?